In this demo, I'm going to show how to create a couple different options of frequently asked questions using Conductor plugin. The first thing that needs to happen is that before you start with anything else, you need to have your questions and your answers all set up. And you can do that in one of two ways. In this case, we've used a custom post type, very, very simple custom post type, where the title of each post corresponds to the question, and the content area of each post corresponds to the answer. Very simple. You could do the same thing that I did with the custom post type down here. You could do very simply with a regular post type and just use a specific category that's going to match something that you're going to associate with your custom or your frequently asked questions area. So you could use maybe category would be questions. The next thing that needs to be done is the page that we want all of these questions to display on in various ways is we have to do something called conduct this page or conduct the content. And we can go to options. And there's a simple selection on this page which asks us which page we're interested in using. And in my case, it's the FAQ page. Conduct this content type. A new setting is added at the bottom of our list. The page FAQ, right now it's disabled. We're going to change that over to full page with layout. That's the option we're using. Now save the option. Now, if I go to that page, which I had set up before I refresh the page, you're going to see it's very plain. There's nothing there. There's no content. It doesn't look like anything special, but as soon as I refresh it, you're going to see that the nature of the page changes. And the first thing you're going to notice is it's going to confirm what we just did, which is make this page available as basically a sidebar to itself, which means widgets can be added, a specialized conductor widget can be added, and it is not managed anymore from the dashboard with the normal content area. One thing to remember is that in order to conduct a page, it cannot be in draft or private format. It needs to be a publicly published page. The next thing to do is to add the stuff. And what we want to do is add a conductor widget. And going into the customizer is one way this can be done. You can do it in the widgets area too, but we're going to do it in the customizer during the demo. And reaffirm what page we want to work on in the customizer. Now your customizer might look a little bit different. Just as a side note, I'm using a theme called Symphony Pro, which is actually part of the packages for Conductor plugin. But you may be using any other theme. So your customizer area might look slightly different. But the area you need to go to is Conductor Layouts. Make sure you've got the page layout that you were looking for. Now I'm going to ask to add a widget to this content area because we had no sidebar on that page. Conductor widget is what I want, and I'm just going to call this the FAQ small. And I want many of my FAQs. I'm not really worried about the order they're in. I want all of them to show. In this option, I'm going to say I want it in the display that's going to be small items. So you're going to see multiple across the page. I don't need a featured image. The title doesn't have to be linked. I don't need the author byline or anything like that. I don't need any content. But I do want the read more link, but I don't want it to say read more because it's really read full answer. I want it to be in the context of the FAQ. I could have said that read the FAQ answer, but I just wrote read the full answer. And I want that to be linked and visible. I also have a CSS class that I had set up in advance in my child theme file, and that's FAQ title small. And this was just to add a little bit of decoration. It is completely optional. I just did it to highlight things for you, but It is not anything that's going to impact the actual functionality of the display. It's just going to perhaps highlight the title versus highlight the answer, and you can set that up if you'd like. I'm going to add another widget. I'm going to add another Conductor widget. You might not ever do this on a real website page because it's exactly duplicate information, but I wanted to show again a different way that you could handle the frequently asked questions, which makes it more like a page rather than a collection of posts. And the reason why I say that is because I'm going to show all of this stuff. And I'm going to say I want a large display going all the way across the page. I don't need the featured image. The title doesn't have to be linked, but I want it visible. No author byline. I want the content, the full content, and I don't need a continue reading button. When you're considering doing it in the way that I have just demonstrated with the full content, it is going to be the entire content. So if you have a lot of text in one or more of the answers, this layout may not be optimal. But if you see here, and I want to turn off the title here, I don't need to make that visible. If you see here, and I'll close this, I'll save it and publish it, you'll see that everything is all in one space. So nobody has to go clicking anywhere to see the FAQ in this second area that I created. Let's go back to it, the FAQ page. And you'll notice here is the first one I did where they were small, side by side, no content showing. Really, it's abbreviated. You click on this read full answer and it takes you to the actual post, right? We'll go back. And since my answers and questions there were few questions and they were short answers, doing it as a full content showing makes sense and it would work okay. However, if it turned out that you had answers that had a lot of stuff to it, you might decide to change from the full content showing to an excerpt of the content showing. So you can change that. And now you're going to want to have something that says read the full answer again. And I'm going to change to maybe 15 words showing because I don't want it to be too cluttery. But the important thing to remember is that it's going to show the entire post. So if you have a lot of text, it's going to look a little bit clumsy. So here I changed it, assuming I had a lot of posts, and I would have to move this to the center. But what I have showing here is the title, an excerpt of the answer, and the link to read the full answer. I would move this over to the center to keep it all nicely aligned. But here you have it. You can easily create several variations of frequently asked question displays for your website. Good luck.